If you thought Mamdani was radical, wait until you see who he hired, or the fact that he maybe did a Nazi salute. Of course, the media is very quiet about that. Or the fact that he was sworn in on a Quran, or the fact that within 72 hours of him becoming the new mayor of New York City, he managed to abolish a whole bunch of things, coincidentally, one of them being the definition of anti-Semitism. There are so many things happening, and I just want to start this episode by saying that no, we will not be focusing on the Jew fear-mongering that's going on right now. I think Mamdani is a socialist, Islamist, danger to New York City, nothing to do with the whole anti-Semitic rhetoric. I know that Jews are absolutely freaking out. I would be freaking out if somebody like this was a mayor of my city, but I'd be freaking out for many more reasons than just his crazy stances on Jews. And I really want to focus on that, on the fact that we've managed to elect into our districts. Now we have two mayors of the most powerful cities in the world. The mayor of London and the mayor of New York City are both Islamists. I'm talking about Sadiq Khan in England and Mamdani now in New York City. I'm talking about the fact that somehow he managed to bamboozle the world into thinking that being sworn into on a Quran is a religious freedom. It's such a classic example of how they are infiltrating using our belief systems against us. I'm talking about the fact that the people that he has hired are actually, in some cases, Al-Qaeda public terrorist supporters. I mean, just to think about that, we'll review that list soon. And I'm talking about how the media has basically completely ignored some of the insane things that are going on here. And most importantly, the fact that this guy is a socialist. Now, why do I say the most importantly? Not because I don't think that he's an Islamist is a problem. You already know my opinions on that. Not because I don't think that his massively anti-Jew rhetoric is a problem, because I think in general having a mayor of a city with a big population who hates that population, probably not a good idea. But I find it so unbelievably phenomenal that in America, the city, the country, the place, the continent that fought for years to stop the infiltration of communism idealism has elected into the main bastion of its freedom, right? Thank God it's not Washington, D.C., but into New York City, a guy whose opening speech is basically a whole thing about how we have to get rid of the individualism and start basking in the warmth of collectivism, i.e., in simple terms, for those who don't understand, the time of capitalism is over. The time of socialism has now begun. Just a reminder that communism, socialism, etc., has killed hundreds of thousands, if not, no, sorry, hundreds of millions of people over the last 100 years. It's a wonderful ideology that's really deserves its place right in the heart of New York City. And all of these things are happening very, very, very quickly. So let's review. But first off, as you already know, thank you for being here. Welcome to The Pushback. I'm Ira K, your host, where we push back against crazy ideologies, infiltration to the West, all the things that we're seeing like immigration, Islamization, etc., etc., etc. You guys are here with me. And if you've watched my content up until this point, you know that we are on a mission to hit 100K within 6 months. And today we have a perfectly even number, 83,970. Reminder to you that if you share this with one person, or if you share it with double person, we can double or triple our impact. And if you think that what we're doing here is important, I am depending on you to help us get the word out there. You can like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. Check out our links below. We're doing interesting things on multiple platforms, including in other languages. We are now in Spanish and in German, and I think also in Portuguese. So if you know somebody who could benefit from this kind of commentary and that, feel free to share that with them. Okay, guys, let's dive into the Mamdani thing. So I think the thing I kind of really want to start with was this interesting video that I saw.
My heart goes out to you. It is thank.
Did you all see the Mamdani semi-Nazi salute? Let's watch it again. I'll start by saying this. I don't think that Mamdani is actually a Nazi. I don't think so. And I don't think that Elon Musk is actually a Nazi. I think this is kind of a symbol of strength. However, what I want to talk about here, because I think this is important, is the complete disregard of the media of the fact that Mamdani did a Nazi salute. Do you all remember the hullabaloo, the chaos, the madness that we experienced when Elon Musk did that accidental thing, or not accidental, depending on who you ask, but when he did that? Do you remember how the world went ballistic? The media couldn't stop talking about it. The lefties, most importantly, they have brought in a Nazi, a Nazi, a Nazi. And now Mamdani does it in his inauguration speech. I'm pretty sure and silence. The only reason I know about this is because I follow some right-wing people on X. I follow a lot of different people on X, and by the way, X has gotten really spicy. I'm getting in so much trouble. That's so unbelievably fun. I can't believe I wasn't on that platform before. I get to actually just say everything that's in my brain all of the time. Absolutely wonderful. And not get cancelled for it. Anyways, that's a side point. However, where's the media? Where is the media? And I think this is important for us to talk about, the double standard, because this is how somebody like Mamdani gets elected in. There is a double standard because he is young, he's an immigrant, he's an Islamist, he's a this, he's a that. He's everything that this wokey mentality and culture loves. And because they love it, they are willing to excuse anything, even really, really, really crazy things. More to the fact that they love it and they're willing to excuse crazy things, they don't have any of the intellectual capacity to do the basic work to actually think through things. Like, for example, his socialism speech. I mean, you don't need to take my word on it. Let's just watch him say it.
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
We will replace the frigidity of individualism with warm, what's the word he said? Let's watch that again.
We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism.
The warmth of collectivism, i.e., he is tapping into this part of people that doesn't think for themselves. It doesn't say, oh, collectivism, i.e., communism, that didn't work. That killed hundreds of thousands of people. The people who do it on top, the ones who believe that we should all be equal, etc., they end up stealing everything. They end up living in very amazing conditions. Surprise, surprise. And the individuals below them don't. They're not looking at Mamdani and thinking, oh, this guy's wearing very expensive clothes and living in a very expensive area and everything's very convenient for him. They're just thinking, oh yeah, rugged individualism versus warmth of communism, whatever these words are. It's actually mad. So the media disregards same facts. They apply different standards to different people if it doesn't align with their narrative. They allow for ideas that are so insane. I mean, just to think about the fact that America in the 1960s, the war that it did against socialism, the war that it fought, the understanding that Western societies cannot exist with these sort of ideologies. And now you have somebody who's coming in and talking about it. And then obviously there's the really big thing that everybody's talking about. Mamdani took over. Well, actually, this isn't the big thing. The big thing to me is actually who's hired, because I think the people who he's hired are really behind a lot of the stuff that he's doing. So we're going to review those people in a second. But before we get to that, there's kind of this massive freak out because he has basically said that he is abolishing everything that Eric Adams did after the date that he was indicted, I think, or something along those lines. I'm not fully familiar with the story of Eric Adams, so I'm not going to get it. I'm not going to talk about it because I don't want to get into the details of it. Again, remember, I'm not a New Yorker. I'm somebody from outside who is watching this and saying, how the heck did they allow an Islamist to come in? Now, democracy is beautiful, freedom, these people who are allowed to get voted in. I'm all for that. You should allow that. But at the end of the day, when you have a Trojan horse coming into your city, is that a time that maybe you should say, we might need to rethink some of where our freedoms are applied? Like, for example, America is very clear on terrorism, which means that if there's any sort of funding to Mamdani, and we know that there is, from people associated with terrorist entities like the Muslim Brotherhood, does that mean that this person should not be allowed to become mayor? In my opinion, yeah. And again, I'll say this, and I think this is important, really important people to recognize, honing in on the fact that he hates Jews, he hates Jews, he hates Jews. It's just not the right strategy to go about it. It's not the right way. It's not the right talking points. It's not correct. Because at the end of the day, he can always watershed it and just pretend that that's what's not going on. We need to talk about the fact that this is a radical Islamist who has come into power, who is pushing socialist ideologies, who is going to harm not just the Jews, but anybody who's wealthy, anybody who's successful, anybody who can think for themselves in a city. He is taking over New York City. And if you don't think this is going to kind of come from many other angles, you're wrong. Now, a lot of people said to me, and I thought this at the beginning, when he comes in, he's not going to do that much damage. And I thought that as well until I saw the people that are working for him. And I think the people who are working for him are a very important indicator. Remember, within 72 hours of this guy come in, he abolished the definition of anti-Semitism in New York City, basically saying anti-Semitism isn't really a thing. Interestingly enough, he took over the mayor of New York City's account, and whilst the Twitter or the Instagram social medias were always under mayor of New York City, he changed it to Zoran Mamdani, and maybe Eric Adams did this in the past, I don't know. A lot of people have been going through the things that Eric Adams said, because Eric Adams was clearly a friend to Israel, and kind of saying, oh, look what Zoran Mamdani said, which is entertaining in and of itself, and I highly recommend that you scroll through the account. However, what was interesting to note is that he immediately deleted Eric Adams saying, hi, I am putting into an executive order a definition of anti-Semitism that we can deal with. He deleted that tweet. Now again, do we all need to freak out about it? I don't know. I don't know that he can actually go that far and do such bad things, but it's something to pay attention to, that within his first few hours, this is the things he's focusing on. And as I've said, I think he's a problem, but I really think his team is even worse. And so let's pull up who the people are that are working for him. And I'm going to give credit to this for an Instagram account called Basic Optimism, okay? Mamdani chose Ramzi Qassem as New York City's chief counsel. Qassem isn't just a lawyer. He once defended an Al-Qaeda terrorist convicted of a bombing that killed a civilian. He also represented pro-Hamas activist Mahmoud Khalil. There's a pattern of clients openly hostile to the United States. Okay, his lawyer is somebody who has basically figured out how to take care and represent people who are pro-terrorist organizations or who are active terrorists in and of themselves. That's an important thing for us to know, because why would you bring that person in, besides the fact that maybe he's your friend? Well, because he's somebody who knows how to get you out of complications that might come with supporting of terrorism. Again, not trying to fearmonger, but important to note that this kind of guy, a person who supported Mahmoud Khalil, is not somebody who thinks that anti-Semitism or Jew defending or Islamization is a bad thing. Now, Mamdani says he's surrounding himself with specialists for criminal justice. He chose someone with first-hand experience, Maison Linen, an ex-con rapper who served time for violent crime. Again, Mamdani's tactic at the moment is interesting. He's going for people that can massively attract young, cool audiences. So for what's better than an ex-con rapper, right? To act as a specialist on criminal justice? Okay, now who's his transition lead? This is Lina Khan. She's a socialist regulator, famous for expanding government power far beyond its traditional limits. That approach reshaped industries, often chaotically, and bankrupted iRobot and Spirit, costing thousands of people their jobs. It's a national ideology. He also picked failed progressive Biden nominee Julia Su as top economic justice aide. She failed to get confirmed because lawmakers cited her record in California: catastrophic unemployment, fraud during COVID, aggressive regulation that hurt small businesses, poor management, and weak oversight. Mamdani tapped Catherine Elmonte da Costa to lead his Office of Appointments. Then her old social media posts resurfaced. They included anti-Semitic tropes, demeaning Jewish people. This is who he was trusting to build his team. That woman actually resigned. That's good. A top fundraiser for Zohran Mamdani was exposed celebrating anti-New York PD slurs and saying that U.S. should be punished for its sins. Jack Gross, who helped raise more than $20,000 for the Mamdani campaign, wrote on a social media in June that it was beautiful when New Yorkers yelled, "New York PD, suck my DICK." This is part of the circle that he's choosing. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani tapped Alex Vitali in his community safety committee. He wants policing abolished and even wrote a book titled The End of Policing. In his view, the problem isn't training, recruitment, or methods, it's the police themselves. Now someone who wants to dismantle policing is helping decide how New York City keeps people safe. New York City Mamdani's inaugural committee is filled with millionaire hypocrites. Take Met star Francisco Lindor and his wife, Katia Guerrero Lindor. They just bought a $21 million Upper East Side penthouse. These are the people supporting socialism. This, to me, is where it gets interesting. The fact that he's brought in terrorist supporters, vile anti-Jew people who hate anybody and are massively pro-Palestine, and additionally, people who are so hypocritically socialist. You know, it's one thing to be an ideological socialist, like somebody who says, you know, it's really bad, but it's another thing to be a millionaire or a billionaire socialist. Those are the kind of people that you just really, really, really hate. And so that's where we're at with Zohran Mamdani. We're going to see what happens now and how it moves forward. As always, we try and leave with a note of hope. To me, God exists. God controls the world. Mamdani can do absolutely jack nothing if God doesn't allow him to. But at the end of the day, he's also been chosen by the people and allowed by God to come in. And we have to ask ourselves why this is happening. At the end of the day, there are direct things that we can correlate to Mamdani's success. Islamization, huge amounts of funding to bring him in, a socialist crackover of the Western societies, medias to absolute silence, uneducated majorities, etc., etc., etc. And these are all the things that we have to fight back. Mamdani is a symptom, but a very well orchestrated symptom of external forces trying to come in and infiltrate the bastions of freedom, the people, the places, the epitome of what it means to be a Westerner, to be an American. New York City has famously always been a place that people have looked to as the place of opportunity, and this is a place that's becoming socialist. I mean, we really have to think about it and understand the severity of it, and not to make matters worse. But we also have to remember that the people who clearly highly calculated bringing this guy in have succeeded in New York City. What do you think that means for other places in New York or in America? What do you think that means? We have to be thinking about that, and we have to be thinking about it very, very seriously. Thank you for your attention to this matter.